The space around the giant alien ship was filled with fire and death. Hundreds of ships from 3 different races fought in the biggest battle the galaxy had ever seen. Commander Sarah Chun gripped the arms of her captain's chair as her ship, the Earth defense ship Valor, shook from another blast. "Status report," she shouted over the noise of alarms and explosions. "Hull damage on Deck 7, Commander," called out Lieutenant Torres from his station. "But our weapons are still working fine." Sarah looked at the main screen. The Void Swarm's mothership was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon. It was black as space itself and covered with thousands of smaller ships that moved around it like angry bees. For 3 years, this monster had eaten entire worlds. Today, they would stop it. "All human ships? This is Commander Chun," she spoke into her communicator. "Remember the plan. We hit the mothership's power core while our Zephyrian friends keep the smaller ships busy." The Zephyrians had been humanity's allies for 5 years now. They were tall, thin beings with blue skin and large eyes. They were smart and had better technology than humans. When the Void Swarm started destroying planets, the Zephyrians had asked humans to join their fight. Together they had won many battles. Sarah watched as the Zephyrian fleet moved into position. Their ships were beautiful, shaped like silver. Leaves that could slice through space faster than anything humans had built. Admiral HFY War, the Zephyrian commander, had promised to protect the human ships while they made their attack run. "Zephyrian fleet is in position, Commander," reported Torres. "They're engaging the swarm fighters now." "Good," Sarah said. "Begin attack run. All ships follow my lead." The human fleet consisted of 50 ships. It was not much compared to the hundreds of Zephyrian vessels, but human ships were tough and their crews were brave. They had been fighting alongside the Zephyrians for years, learning their tactics and sharing their own ideas. Sarah's ship led the charge toward the mothership. The plan was simple. The Zephyrians would keep the swarm fighters busy while the humans punched through to the mothership's weak spot. Intelligence said there was a power core deep inside the ship. If they could destroy it, the whole mothership would die. 30 seconds to target," called out the navigation officer. Sarah felt proud as she watched her fleet. Humans had come so far. Just 50 years ago, they had barely reached their own moon. Now they were fighting to save the galaxy alongside an advanced alien race. Earth's children had proven they belonged among the stars. "Commander, I'm getting strange readings from the Zephyrian fleet," Torres said, his voice worried. "What kind of readings?" "They're turning around. It looks like they're pointing their weapons at us." Sarah's blood went cold. "That can't be right." "Check your instruments." "I've checked 3 times, Commander." "The Zephyrian ships are targeting our fleet." Before Sarah could respond, the first blast hit the human ship Darwin's Dream. The beautiful Zephyrian plasma beams, which had destroyed so many Void Swarm ships, now cut through human armor like it was paper. The Darwin's Dream exploded in a ball of blue fire. "All ships evasive action," Sarah screamed into her communicator. "The Zephyrians have turned against us, but it was too late." The human fleet was spread out in attack formation, completely open to attack. They had trusted their allies completely. Now that trust was killing them. One by one, human ships died. The Zephyrians were faster and had better weapons. They had planned this betrayal perfectly. They knew exactly where each human ship would be and how they would react. "Commander, we're getting a message from Admiral HFY War," Torres said. "Put it on screen," Sarah ordered. The tall, blue figure of Admiral HFY War appeared on the main screen. His large eyes showed no emotion as he spoke. "Commander Chun, I regret that it has come to this. But humanity has become too dangerous to be allowed to survive." "What are you talking about?" Sarah shouted. "We're your allies? We fought beside you for years." "Yes, and in those years you have learned too much. Your people adapt too quickly. You take our technology and make it better? You solve problems in ways we never thought of. The Council has decided that humans will one day become a threat to galactic peace." Sarah could not believe what she was hearing. "So you made a deal with the Void Swarm?" HFY War nodded slowly. "The Swarm will stop their attacks on Zephyrian worlds. In return, we help them destroy humanity." After you are gone, we will find a way to deal with the swarm. You're making a deal with monsters? Better monsters we can control than humans we cannot. The transmission ended. Around them, more human ships were dying. Sarah watched the New York burn as Zephian fighters swarmed around it. The ship's captain, her old friend Mike Rodriguez, was probably dead. "Commander, what are your orders?" Torres asked. Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was waiting for her to tell them what to do. These were good people who had volunteered to fight for their planet and their species. They deserved better than to die because of alien betrayal. "Get us out of here," she said quietly. "Signal any ships that can still move. We retreat to the emergency rally point." "But Commander, the mission is over, Lieutenant. We've been set up. If we stay here, we all die for nothing." The Valor turned away from the battle. Around them, the few surviving human ships followed. Out of 50 ships, only 8 were left. Hundreds of her people were dead, killed by the race they had trusted most. As they escaped, Sarah watched the Void Swarm mothership. The giant ship was not damaged at all. The whole battle had been a lie. The Zephyrians had never intended to destroy it. They had only wanted to get the human fleet in the perfect position for slaughter. "Commander, we're getting reports from the colonies," the communications officer said. "Zephyrian fleets are attacking human settlements across the galaxy. They're hitting everyone at the same time." Sarah closed her eyes. It was not just a betrayal. It was genocide. The Zephyrians were trying to wipe out every human in space. "How many colonies are under attack?" "All of them, Commander. Every human world outside the Sol system." Sarah opened her eyes and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, human families were dying. Children who had never seen Earth were being killed by ships that had once protected them. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Best possible speed." "Yes, Commander." As the Valor jumped into faster-than-light travel, Sarah made a promise to herself. The Zephyrians thought they knew humans. They thought humans were weak and would give up after one defeat. They were wrong. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. They had climbed out of caves to reach the stars. They would not die quietly. The Zephyrians had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had made an enemy of the human race, and humans never forgot who betrayed them. The Earth Defense Command Center was quiet except for the sound of computer screens and worried voices. Commander Sarah Chun stood in front of a large table showing a map of human space. Red dots marked where colonies had been attacked. There were too many red dots. "Final count, Admiral," reported Colonel Martinez, his voice heavy with sadness. "We lost 47 ships in the Kepler battle. 38 colonies are under Zephyrian control. Total casualties are estimated at 2 million people." Admiral Harrison, the head of Earth Defense, looked older than his 60 years. His gray hair was messy and his uniform wrinkled. He had not slept in 3 days. "What about our remaining forces?" he asked. 18 ships made it back to Earth. Another dozen are scattered across the outer rim, cut off from communication. The Mars shipyard is still working, but at this rate, the Zephyrians will reach Earth in 6 months. Sarah stepped forward. "Admiral, we need to consider Project Prometheus." Everyone in the room went quiet. Project Prometheus was something they all knew about but never talked about. It was too dangerous, too terrible to use in normal war. "Absolutely not," said General Thompson from his seat. "Those weapons are banned by galactic law. If we use them, every species in the galaxy will turn against us." "Every species already has turned against us," Sarah said, her voice hard. "The Zephyrians have been spreading lies about humans for months. They say we are too violent, too unpredictable. They say the galaxy is safer without us?" Admiral Harrison rubbed his tired eyes. "Dr. Webb is in Lab 7 with his team. They've been working on Prometheus weapons since the attack. Maybe it's time we listen to what they have to say." Dr. Marcus Webb was a thin man with wild hair and thick glasses. His laboratory was deep underground, protected by layers of steel and concrete. When the military leaders arrived, he was staring at a strange device on his workbench. "Ah, Admiral Harrison," Dr. Webb said without looking up. "I was wondering when you would come to see me." "Dr. Webb, we need options. The Zephyrians have superior technology and numbers. Our conventional weapons can't match theirs." Dr. Webb finally looked up, his eyes bright with excitement. "Conventional weapons, yes. But humans have never been conventional, have we? We think differently than other species. We see solutions where they see only problems." He walked over to a covered object in the corner of the lab. With a dramatic gesture, he pulled away the cloth. Underneath was a device that looked like a metal sphere covered in complex patterns. "This is a gravity manipulator," Dr. Webb explained. "It can take the natural gravity of a planet and focus it into a beam. Imagine turning a world's entire mass into a weapon." General Thompson stepped back. That's monstrous. You could destroy an entire fleet with that." "Exactly," Dr. Webb smiled. "The Zephyrians expect us to fight like they do. Ship to ship, following the rules of war. They don't expect U.S. to turn physics itself into our ally." Admiral Harrison studied the device. "How does it work?" "Simple, really. We place one of these devices on a planet's surface. When enemy ships come into orbit, we activate it. The gravity beam can reach out and crush their ships like tin cans. Or we can use it to pull them down to the planet's surface." Sarah looked at the sphere with wonder and fear. "How many of these can you make?" "With Earth's resources, maybe 50. But that's not the best part." Dr. Webb's eyes gleamed. "I have other projects too. Weapons that use human creativity in ways the Zephyrians never imagined." He led them to another table covered with different devices. "This one creates phantom images of our ships. The enemy. We'll see 100 human vessels when there are really only 10. This device can phase our ships in and out of normal space, making us impossible to hit. And this one," he picked up what looked like a simple metal cube, "this can make our weapons. Ignore energy shields completely. Zephyrian shields are designed to stop energy beams and solid projectiles. They are not designed to stop weapons that exist in 11 dimensions at once." General Thompson shook his head. "These weapons violate everything we know about the laws of war. The laws of war were written by species who think inside boxes," Dr. Webb replied. "Humans have never been good at staying inside boxes. That's why the Zephyrians fear us." 3 weeks later, Commander Sarah Chun was back in space, but this time she was not leading a large fleet. She had only 5 ships, but each one carried Dr. Webb's new weapons. Her mission was to test them against a Zephyrian patrol in the outer rim. "Target acquired, Commander," reported Lieutenant Torres. He had volunteered to stay with Sarah's mission even though it was probably suicide. 3 Zephyrian ships, just like intelligence said. "Good, remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to prove that humans can fight in ways they never expect." Sarah's ship, the New Defiance, moved toward the Zephyrian patrol. The enemy ships were beautiful and deadly, their silver hulls gleaming in the starlight. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. "They're scanning us, Commander," Torres said. "I think they're confused. Our ship doesn't match any design in their database." The Defiance looked like a normal human ship from the outside, but inside it was completely different. Dr. Webb's team had rebuilt everything using theories that Zephyrian science said were impossible. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Put them on screen." A Zephyrian officer appeared, his blue face showing surprise. "Human vessel, you are in violation of the quarantine zone. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Sarah smiled coldly. "I have a better idea. Why don't you try to destroy us?" The transmission ended. Immediately, the 3 Zephyrian ships opened fire with their plasma cannons. The beams that had destroyed so many human ships shot toward the Defiance, but the beams passed right through the ship without doing any damage. "Phase generator is working perfectly," reported the weapons officer. "We're slightly out of normal space." "Their weapons can't touch us." Sarah watched the Zephyrian ships on her screen. She could imagine the confusion on their bridges. "There are Sensors said the human ship was there, but their weapons passed right through it. Time to show them what human creativity looks like, Sarah said. Fire the dimensional cannon. The Defiance fired a weapon that looked like a simple energy beam. But this beam existed in multiple dimensions at once. It passed through the Zephyrian shields like they were not there and struck the Lead ship's hull directly. The Zephyrian ship exploded in a flash of silver fire. Impossible, Torres whispered. Their shields should have stopped that. Their shields were designed by minds that think in only 3 dimensions, Sarah explained. Dr. Webb thinks in 11. The remaining 2 Zephyrian ships tried to retreat, but Sarah was not finished with her demonstration. She activated the Phantom projector. Suddenly, her one ship appeared to be 20 ships, all surrounding the Zephyrians. The enemy ships fired wildly at the Phantom images, wasting their energy on targets that did not exist. While they were distracted, the real Defiance destroyed both ships with weapons they could not see or understand. Mission accomplished, Sarah said. Set course? For Earth, Dr. Webb will want to hear how his toys performed. When they returned to Earth, the news was both good and bad. Dr. Webb's weapons had worked perfectly, but the Zephyrians were getting stronger. More alien races were joining them, convinced by Zephyrian propaganda that humans were too dangerous to live. The good news, Admiral Harrison told the War Council, is that Dr. Webb can now mass-produce his weapons. Every human ship will be equipped with technology the enemy cannot understand or counter. The bad news, General Thompson added, is that we are running out of time. The Zephyrians are building a massive fleet. They plan to attack Earth directly. In 4 months, Sarah stood up. Then we need to change the rules of this war completely. No more defensive fighting. No more following their expectations. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you betray humanity. Dr. Webb smiled from his corner of the room. I have been working on something special. Something that will remind the universe why humans are the most dangerous species they have ever encountered. Admiral Harrison looked around the room at his officers. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded by enemies. But there was something new in their eyes now. It was not fear or desperation, it was hope, and the promise of revenge. Very well, the Admiral said. Operation Prometheus is officially approved. Show them what humans do to those who stab us in. The back, outside the meeting room, Earth continued to spin peacefully in space. But below its surface, in secret laboratories and hidden factories, humanity was preparing to unleash weapons that would change warfare forever. The Zephyrians had wanted to eliminate humans because they were unpredictable and creative. Soon, they would learn just how unpredictable and creative humans could be when they were fighting for their very survival. 6 months had passed since the great betrayal at Kepler. Commander Sarah Chun stood in the command center of a hidden asteroid base deep in the Vega system. The base was carved out of solid rock and metal, invisible to most scanners. Around her, humans and aliens worked together at computer stations and tactical displays. Report from the Titan colony, said Captain Rodriguez. He had survived when his ship was damaged in the betrayal and now helped coordinate the resistance. Zephyrian forces are strip-mining the planet. They're taking everything useful and leaving the rest as a wasteland? Sarah nodded grimly. The pattern was the same everywhere. The Zephyrians were not just conquering human worlds. They were erasing all signs that humans had ever existed. Buildings were destroyed, art was burned, and even the graves of human settlers were dug up and scattered. Any word from the Silicate delegation? She asked. They should arrive within the hour, Rodriguez replied, along with representatives from the Wanderer fleets. Sarah felt a mixture of hope and worry. For months, she had been secretly contacting other alien races, looking for anyone who might help humanity. What she had found was disturbing but also encouraging. The Zephyrians had been betraying other species for hundreds of years. The first hint had come from a damaged silicate ship they had rescued near the Centauri system. The silicates were beings made of living crystal who communicated through light patterns. Their ship had been shot down by Zephyrian patrol vessels for no apparent reason. When Sarah's team decoded their language, the truth came out. The Silicates had once been part of a great alliance with the Zephyrians. But when the Silicates discovered a new form of energy that made them more powerful, the Zephyrians had turned on them. They claimed the Silicates were becoming too dangerous and needed to be stopped for galactic peace. The same story came from the Wanderers, a nomadic race that lived on huge ships and traveled between the stars. They had shared their knowledge of faster-than-light travel with the Zephyrians, only to watch their homeworld burn when the Zephyrians decided they knew too much. "Commander Chun," called out Dr. Webb from his workstation, "I have something interesting to show you." Dr. Webb had been working with the alien refugees, studying their technology and comparing it to Zephyrian weapons. His wild hair was even wilder than usual, and his eyes were bright with discovery. "What did you find, Doctor?" "The Zephyrians have a fatal flaw in their thinking," he said excitedly. "They are too organized, too predictable. They follow the same tactical patterns every time because those patterns have always worked before." He brought up a display showing battle recordings from dozens of conflicts. "Look at this!" Whether they are fighting humans, Silicates, or Wanderers, they use the same approach. Divide the enemy fleet, target the largest ships first, then mop up the smaller ones. Every single time. Sarah studied the patterns, so we can predict what they will do. Better than that, we can use their predictability against them. They expect their enemies to follow logical patterns too. They cannot understand an enemy that acts randomly or uses tactics that seem to make no sense. A new voice spoke from behind them. "That is why you humans are so feared." Sarah turned to see three beings entering the command center. The first was a silicate, its crystal body reflecting the room's lights in beautiful colors. The second was a wanderer, tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes adapted for life in space. The third was another human, but one Sarah did not recognize. "I'm Commander Vale," the unknown human said. "I represent the hidden colonies in the Outer Rim. We have been waiting for someone to organize the resistance." Sarah was surprised. "I thought all the outer colonies were destroyed." "Most were, but some of us saw the betrayal coming. We had heard rumors from other species about Zephyrian treachery. When the attack began, we went into hiding." The silicate stepped forward, its voice sounding like musical chimes. "I am Crystal Singer Harmony of Stars. My people offer our energy weapons and shield technology to your cause." The Wanderer spoke next, his voice soft and careful. "I am Fleet Master Seven Wines. The Wanderer ships are fast and hard to track. We can carry your warriors anywhere in the galaxy without being detected." Sarah felt hope growing in her chest. For months, humanity had seemed alone and doomed. Now she was looking at the beginnings of a real alliance. "Welcome to the Remnant Alliance," she said. "We have a lot of work to do over the next few weeks." The hidden base became a center of frantic activity. Human engineers worked with silicate energy specialists to create new weapons. Wanderer pilots taught human crews how to fly their ships in ways that would confuse enemy sensors. Most importantly, Dr. Webb began developing what he called chaos theory weapons. "The idea is simple," he explained to a group of Alliance officers. "We create weapons and tactics that have no logical pattern. Zephyrians will try to analyze our behavior and predict our next move, but there will be nothing to analyze." He showed them a new ship design. It looked like it had been built by someone who had never seen a spaceship before. Wings stuck out at odd angles, weapons were placed in seemingly random locations, and the whole thing looked like it might fall apart at any moment. "This ship will confuse their computers," Dr. Webb said proudly. "Their targeting systems are designed to lock onto logical ship designs. This thing will appear on their screens as 17 different objects, none of which should be able to fly." Captain Rodriguez raised his hand. "But will it actually fly?" Dr. Webb grinned. "Like a dream, the random design is just for show. Underneath, it uses the best technology from all our alliance partners. The first test of the new tactics came when a Zephyrian patrol discovered one of the Wanderer supply runs. Sarah led a small fleet of the new Chaos ships. To intercept the enemy, the Zephyrian commander was probably very confused when Sarah's ships appeared on his scanners. The human vessels seemed to be flying in random directions, changing course for no reason, and occasionally disappearing completely. "Human ships, this is Captain Velyon of the Zephyrian Fourth Fleet," came the transmission. "Your flight patterns make no sense. Are your navigation systems damaged?" Sarah smiled. "Our navigation systems are working perfectly, Captain. We are exactly where we want to be." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Sarah's ships attacked from impossible angles, using weapons that fired around corners, and shields that only protected certain parts of the ship. The Zephyrians fired at targets that vanished and reappeared, ships that seemed to be in 5 places at once, and weapons that looked like they were shooting backwards within minutes. The entire Zephyrian patrol was destroyed, and they never understood what had happened to them. "Excellent work," Dr. Webb said when they returned to base. "The battle recordings will drive their analysts crazy. They will spend months trying to understand tactics that have no logic behind them." But the real breakthrough came when Crystal Singer, Harmony of Stars, brought disturbing news from her people's intelligence network. "The Zephyrians are planning something terrible," she said, her crystal body pulsing with worried colors. "They have made a deal with the Void Swarm. Once all humans are dead, they will turn on the swarm and destroy them too." Sarah felt cold. Anger filled her chest. They plan to rule the entire galaxy. Yes, they believe they are the only species wise enough to maintain galactic peace. All other races will either serve them or be eliminated. Commander Vale spoke up. "Then we need to move faster. If they succeed in destroying humanity completely, they will be too powerful to stop." Sarah looked around the command center at the mixed group of humans and aliens working together. 6 months ago, most of these people had never heard of each other. Now they were united by a common enemy and a shared goal. "Dr. Webb, how soon can you have 100 Chaos ships ready?" 2 months if we use all the resources from the Alliance. "Do it and start working on something bigger. Something that will really get their attention. What did you have in mind?" Sarah's smile was cold and determined. "I want to give the Zephyrians a taste of their own medicine. It's time for them to discover what it feels like to be betrayed." As the days passed, more ships arrived at the hidden base. Scattered human survivors, angry silicate warriors, and wanderer fleets that had been hunted across the galaxy. They all came with the same message. They were tired of running and hiding. They were ready to fight back. The Remnant Alliance was no longer just a desperate group of refugees. It was becoming an army. And that army was learning to fight in ways the galaxy had never seen before. In his laboratory, Dr. Webb worked day and night on weapons that would make the Zephyrians regret their treachery. On the bridge, Sarah planned operations that would strike at enemy forces when they least expected it. And in the depths of space, Zephyrian commanders began to report strange attacks by ships that should not exist, using weapons that defied all known science, led by a species that refused to die quietly. The hunt for humanity was about to become much more difficult. Commander Sarah Chun stood before a huge holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red zones marked Zephyrian-controlled space, which now covered almost half of all known worlds. Blue dots showed Void Swarm positions, and tiny green lights marked the hidden bases of the Remnant Alliance. "Operation Nemesis begins in 6 hours, she announced to the gathered commanders. The room was filled with humans, silicates, wanderers, and representatives from 12 other species that had joined their cause. All of them had one thing in common. They had been betrayed by the Zephyr IANS. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his usual wild appearance replaced by a sharp military uniform. "The plan is simple but brilliant. We are going to use the Zephyrians' own communication network against them." He pointed to a series of captured Zephyrian ships floating near their base. 3 months ago, we captured a Zephyrian command vessel. From its computers, we learned their military codes and communication frequencies. We also discovered something very interesting about their alliance with the Void Swarm. Crystal Singer Harmony of Stars pulsed with curious colors. What did you discover, Doctor? The alliance is very fragile. Zephyrians and the Void Swarm don't trust each other at all. They are only working together because they both want humanity destroyed. But each side is constantly watching for signs of betrayal from the other. Commander Vale, representing the hidden human colonies, nodded slowly. So if we can make them think the other side is betraying them ... Exactly, Sarah said. We feed false information to both sides. We make the Zephyrians think the Void Swarm is planning to attack them. We make the Void Swarm think the Zephyrians are preparing to eliminate them. Fleet Master Seven Wines of the Wanderer spoke up. But how do we deliver this false information without being discovered? Dr. Webb smiled. That's where our chaos technology comes in. We have built special transmitters that can mimic any communication signal in the galaxy. To the Zephyrians, our messages will look like they are coming from Void Swarm commanders. To the Void Swarm, our messages will appear to be from Zephyrian leaders. The plan was ambitious and dangerous. The Remnant Alliance would split into dozens of small groups and strike at targets across the galaxy. But instead of trying to win battles, they would focus on creating confusion and mistrust between their enemies. Remember, Sarah told her commanders, we are not trying to destroy their fleets. We are trying to destroy their alliance. Every message we send, every attack we make, must look like it comes from their supposed allies. The first phase of operation Nemesis began with a series of coordinated attacks. Human ships disguised as Void Swarm vessels attacked Zephyrian supply convoys. At the same time, silicate energy weapons modified to look like Zephyrian technology struck at Void Swarm outposts within hours. Both sides were receiving angry messages from their allies, demanding explanations for the unprovoked attacks. Sarah watched the results from her command ship, the Retribution. Status report, Captain Rodriguez. Phase 1 is working perfectly, Commander. We've recorded 17 separate incidents where Zephyrian and Void Swarm forces have fired on each other by mistake. Their communication channels are filled with accusations and demands for explanations. Dr. Webb looked up from his console. I'm monitoring their military frequencies. The confusion is spreading faster than we hoped. Some Zephyrian commanders are starting to question whether the alliance was ever a good idea. But the real breakthrough came when one of the Wanderer scout ships discovered a massive Zephyrian fleet heading toward a Void Swarm stronghold, according to intercepted communications. The Zephyrians believed the Void Swarm was planning a surprise attack on their homeworld. This is our chance, Sarah said. If we can make this battle happen, it will tear their alliance apart completely. She turned to her communications officer. Send a message to the Void Swarm fleet near Proxima 7. Make it look like it's coming from their high command. Tell them that Zephyrian forces are moving to attack their position and they should prepare for immediate battle. At the same time, another message went to the Zephyrian fleet. Disguised as an urgent transmission from Zephyrian intelligence, it warned that the Void Swarm was massing ships for a surprise attack and must be stopped immediately. Both fleets received their fake orders at almost the same time, within hours. Two massive armadas were racing toward each other, each convinced that the other side had betrayed their alliance. The battle that followed was exactly what Sarah had hoped for. Hundreds of ships from both sides destroyed each other in a furious fight that lasted for days. Neither side was willing to stop first, because that would look like an admission of guilt. While their enemies were destroying each other, the Remnant Alliance struck at targets across the galaxy. Dr. Webb's chaos weapons proved devastatingly effective against confused and divided enemy forces. The new reality-warping devices made Alliance ships appear as phantom fleets, causing Zephyrian commanders to waste ammunition shooting at targets that didn't exist. The phase generators allowed human vessels to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles before vanishing back into hyperspace. Commander Chun, reported Lieutenant Torres from his station, We've received word from the liberation of Titan Colony. The mission was a complete success. Sarah felt a rush of satisfaction. Titan had been one of the first human colonies conquered by the Zephyrians. Now it was free again, and its people were joining the Alliance fleet? What about the other liberation? Missions? New Washington, Haven, and Prosperity Station have all been freed. The Zephyrian garrison forces were completely unprepared for our new tactics. Most of them surrendered without fighting when our phantom fleets appeared to surround them. Dr. Webb looked up from his work. Commander, I'm getting reports from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Void Swarm Alliance is collapsing faster than we expected. They're actively fighting each other in 14 different star systems. Good, but we can't let them figure out what we've been doing. Continue Phase 2 of the operation. Phase 2 involved capturing a major Zephyrian command ship. The target was the Zaz Dominion, a massive vessel that served as the flagship for Admiral HFY himself, the same Zephyrian who had betrayed humanity at the Battle of Kepler. The attack on the Dominion was a masterpiece of misdirection. Sarah's fleet appeared to be 3 times larger than it actually was, thanks to Dr. Webb's phantom projectors. They attacked from 7 different directions at once, using weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Admiral HFY's crew had never faced anything like it. Their sensors showed enemy ships that appeared and disappeared, weapons that fired through solid matter, and attack patterns that made no logical sense. This is impossible, HFY transmitted to Sarah's ship as his vessel was surrounded. No species fights like this. What are you? Sarah appeared on his screen, her face calm but her eyes filled with cold anger. We are what you created when you betrayed us, Admiral. We are humanity with nothing left to lose. You cannot win. Even if you capture my ship, the Zephyrian Empire has thousands of vessels. You are still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Numbers don't matter when your enemies are too busy fighting each other to fight us, Sarah replied. Haven't you been watching the news, Admiral? Your alliance with the Void Swarm is tearing itself apart. HFY's large eyes widened with understanding. You did this somehow. You turned us against each other. We simply helped you remember what you really are. Backstabbers and liars who can't trust anyone, not even each other. The capture of the Dominion was the signal for Phase 3 of Operation Nemesis. Across the galaxy, Alliance forces began broadcasting the evidence they had gathered about Zephyrian treachery. Ship logs, recorded conversations, and secret documents that proved the Zephyrians had been betraying other species for centuries. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Dozens of alien races that had remained neutral in the war suddenly turned against the Zephyrians. Species that had been considering joining the Zephyrian Empire instead declared war on them. Commander, Crystal Singer Harmony of Stars reported, My people's homeworld has just declared independence from Zephyrian rule. They are asking to join the Alliance officially. Fleetmaster Seven Winds nodded. The Wanderer Council has voted. All our ships will fight alongside humanity until the Zephyrians are defeated. Sarah looked at the galactic display again. The map had changed dramatically in just a few weeks. Red zones marking Zephyrian control were shrinking, while green lights showing Alliance territory were spreading across the galaxy. Dr. Webb, what's the status of our new weapon systems? Better than we hoped, Commander. Every ship in the Alliance fleet now carries chaos technology. We can make ourselves invisible, create phantom fleets, and fire weapons that ignore all known defenses. Most importantly, we can adapt faster than the enemy can respond, Sarah nodded. Then it's time for the final phase. We're going to end this war where it began, with a confrontation between humans and the ones who betrayed us. Captain Rodriguez looked worried. Commander, are you talking about attacking the Zephyrian homeworld? That's the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Yes, it is. But they'll never expect us to attack it directly. They think we're still the same species they betrayed at Kepler. They don't understand. The Zephyrian homeworld of Zephyr Prime hung in space like a blue jewel surrounded by the largest defensive fleet in galactic history. Thousands of ships formed protective rings around the planet, their weapons pointed outward at the approaching Alliance Armada. Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Retribution, watching the massive enemy fleet through the view screen. Behind her, the combined forces of the Remnant Alliance spread across space like a multicolored carpet of hope and determination. "Final count, Commander," reported Captain Rodriguez. "We have 800 ships from 37 different species. The Zephyrians have over 3,000 vessels defending their homeworld." Sarah nodded calmly. "Numbers have never been our advantage, Captain. Dr. Webb, are all ships equipped with the new broadcasting equipment?" Dr. Webb looked up from his console, his wild hair now streaked with gray from months of intense work. "Every ship is ready, Commander. We can transmit our evidence to every communication device on Zephyr Prime and throughout their empire simultaneously." The plan for this final battle was different from anything they had done before. Sarah was not here just to defeat the Zephyrian fleet. She was here to expose the truth to the entire galaxy and make sure that the Zephyrian Empire could never threaten another species again. "Open the channel to all frequencies," Sarah ordered. It's time the galaxy heard the whole truth. Her image appeared on every screen in the Zephyrian fleet and on every communication device across their empire. Millions of Zephyrians looked up to see the human commander who had haunted their nightmares for the past year. "People of the Zephyrian Empire," Sarah began, her voice calm and clear. "My name is Commander Sarah Chun of the human race. 1 year ago, your leaders betrayed humanity during the Battle of Kepler, breaking an alliance that had lasted for 5 years. Today, I'm here to show you the truth about your government." Immediately, the Alliance fleet began broadcasting the evidence they had gathered. Secret recordings of Zephyrian leaders planning the betrayal. Documents showing how they had made deals with the Void Swarm, most damaging of all. Historical records proving that the Zephyrians had been betraying other species for over 300 years. The reaction was immediate. Across the Zephyrian fleet, crews began arguing with their officers. On the planet below, protests erupted in major cities as citizens learned the truth about their government's actions. "Commander Chun," came an angry transmission from the lead Zephyrian ship. "This is Admiral Telvorth of the Imperial Defense Fleet. You are spreading lies and propaganda. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences," Sarah smiled coldly. "Admiral, your own ship's computers are confirming the authenticity of these documents. Your people are seeing the truth right now. How long do you think they will continue to fight for leaders who have been lying to them for centuries?" The first crack in the Zephyrian defense came when an entire squadron of ships suddenly stopped shooting and moved away from the battle line. Their crews had decided they would not fight for a government that had built its empire on betrayal and deception. "Phase 2, Sarah ordered. "Begin the demonstration." What followed was a display of power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Alliance fleet activated every piece of chaos technology that Dr. Webb had created. Reality warping. Devices made the 800 Alliance ships appear to be 8,000. Phantom projectors created images of massive weapons that existed in 11 dimensions at once. Phase generators allowed entire fleets to appear and disappear at will. But the most impressive display came from the gravity manipulators, working together. 50 of Dr. Webb's devices created a localized space-time distortion that made it look like the Alliance had torn open a hole in reality itself. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was devastating. Crews that had been trained to fight conventional battles found themselves facing enemies that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. Weapons that should have destroyed Alliance ships passed right through them. Attacks that appeared to come from empty space-struck Zephyrian vessels with impossible accuracy. "This is not warfare," Admiral Telvorth transmitted, his voice filled with fear. "This is madness. No species should possess such weapons." "You created these weapons when you betrayed us," Sarah replied. "You forced humanity to become something new, something that could survive in a galaxy where trust means nothing. This is what you made us into." The battle raged for hours, but it was clear that the Zephyrian fleet was falling apart. Not just from the Alliance attacks, but from internal rebellion. Ship after ship stopped fighting and joined. The growing crowd of vessels demanding that their government surrender. The turning point came when Admiral HFY, the architect of the original betrayal, escaped from Alliance custody and reached the Zephyrian command ship. Sarah watched on her screen as he argued with other Zephyrian leaders. "You fools," she could hear him saying, "don't you understand what we're facing? These humans have learned to think in ways that we cannot counter. They have united species that have been enemies for millennia. They have turned our greatest strength, our predictability, into our greatest weakness. Then what do you suggest?" Admiral Telvorth demanded unconditional surrender before they decide to destroy us completely. Sarah opened a channel to the Zephyrian command ship. "Admiral HFY, I see you've rejoined your fleet. Are you ready to discuss terms?" HFY appeared on her screen, his blue face showing defeat and exhaustion. "What are your terms, Commander Chun?" "Justice, truth, and a guarantee that no species will ever again suffer what you did to humanity." The negotiations that followed were broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the mighty Zephyrian Empire agreed to terms that would fundamentally change galactic civilization. The Zephyrians would dissolve their empire and return all conquered worlds to their original inhabitants. They would pay reparations to every species they had betrayed over the centuries. Most importantly, they would submit to the authority of a new galactic council where every species would have an equal voice. But who will lead this new council? Asked Crystal Singer Harmony of Stars. During the negotiations, Sarah looked around at the diverse group of beings who had fought alongside humanity. Silicates, wanderers, Aquarians, rock singers, and dozens of other species that had been brought together by their shared experience of betrayal and their hope for something better. "No one species will lead," she said. "That's the point. We govern together or we don't govern at all." The formal surrender took place on the surface of Zephyr Prime, in the great plaza where Zephyrian emperors had once announced their conquests. Now it hosted a ceremony that would mark the end of one age and the beginning of another. Admiral HFY signed the surrender documents while billions of beings across the galaxy watched. But more important than his signature were the words that Sarah spoke to the assembled crowd. "Today marks the end of the Age of Empires," she announced. "No longer will one species rule over others through deception and betrayal. From this day forward, we move into an age of cooperation where differences are celebrated and trust is earned, not demanded." Dr. Webb, standing beside her, added his own thoughts. "Humanity was nearly destroyed because we trusted too easily. But we learned that the answer to betrayal is not isolation or revenge. The answer is to build something better, something that makes betrayal impossible because everyone benefits from working together." As the ceremony concluded, Sarah looked up at the sky where the combined fleets of the new Galactic Alliance hung in space. Ships from 37 different species, all working together, all committed to the same goal of peaceful cooperation. Fleet Master Seven Wines of the Wanderers approached her. "Commander Chun, the Council has voted. They want you to serve as the first Secretary General of the new alliance." Sarah shook her head. "Thank you, but no. Humanity has had enough of being leaders and followers. We want to be partners." "Then, who should lead?" Sarah smiled and looked around at the diverse group of beings who had stood with humanity in its darkest hour. "We all should, together." 5 years later, Sarah stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station, the new capital of the Galactic Alliance. The space around the station bustled with ships from hundreds of different worlds, all working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old Empire system. Dr. Webb joined her at the viewing port, his hair now completely gray, but his eyes still bright with curiosity. "Any regrets, Commander?" Sarah watched a group of human children playing with young silicates and wanderers in the station's central park. These children would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where different species worked together as equals, where the idea of one race betraying another was considered primitive and barbaric. "No regrets, Doctor. The Zephyrians thought they were eliminating a threat when they betrayed us. Instead, they created something better than any of us could have imagined alone. And what's that? Sarah smiled as she watched the children play, their laughter mixing with the musical tones of silicate communication and the soft whistles of wanderer speech. Hope, real hope for a galaxy where no one has to fear being stabbed in the back by those they trust.